Hi, this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and this is Thursday, August the 2nd. This will serve as our chart lesson for today. If you were looking for a chart lesson yesterday and you couldn't find one, well, you weren't crazy. It's because I didn't do one. We've been having internet problems around here. They're doing a lot of construction. The area that our office is in over here is growing like crazy, and there's a lot of construction going on. And that's the only thing I can account it to. We've talked to AT&T several times. They assure us that it's fixed, and but every day we are experiencing outages that last anywhere from 5 minutes to a half hour. And it went out yesterday around 3 o'clock, just as the market was closing. And by the time I left office at 5, we still didn't have any internet. And I'm hoping it doesn't go down today. It did go down some today during the trading day, but I was done trading by then. So I'm just hoping that if I don't lose you here today. Um, so we'll see. We'll just kind of see how it goes. But I'm going to try to get through this pretty quick um, and kind of go from there. But you can see the trading action from today, and we really had a bigger two-legged swing here. And it's not quite a measured move, but that's what happens a lot of time in the overnight. You get some exaggerated moves. But if you measure this, you'll see that this leg was much bigger than this leg. And generally that's a clue. It's telling you something that you're probably going to get a bigger correction. And you see we are trying to take back a lot of the sell-off from today. But when you got a leg down this strong, unless it's going to be a trading range day, you're probably going to get another leg down regardless of whether it's a measured leg or not. And let me show you this. This is really interesting. I like to show people this stuff. This was our trading range from yesterday. These were the lows from yesterday, and actually your highs from yesterday were right there. So there's your trading range from yesterday. But really we went higher, so you got to account for that today. So if you move this up to where those closes were from the overnight, we had a double top right there, and then we had a little double bottom down there this morning. But this is a nice little clue. Whenever you get a trading range and prices break through and continue on, you're probably going to make a similar move to what this range was. You can see prices have been in this range kind of for extended period, but you measure that and drop it down and you see that's a perfect measured move down. So that was something to be thinking about for your target. When we made that double bottom there, that was a great sign that we were probably going to bounce from there. And the first place I figured we would pull back to was this breakout of this little double bottom that we never really came back and tested. And you can see we had a double bottom right there, and we hesitated there, but we went right on through it. But normally you got to come back and test that, and that's what all this movement was, coming back to test that. And then once you start the down move again, you're thinking another leg, and sure enough, we had a nice another leg here. And this leg was kind of odd here in that it was a wedge shape, and that's generally a reversal type pattern to begin with. Nothing's written in stone. Doesn't mean that it's definitely what's going to happen. But you can see we broke above the little trend line of the wedge right here, made a couple legs down to a new low, and we overshot the lower side, and then prices reversed and started trending back up. And I really thought we might test this breakout area here again and make a double top and go down, but we didn't. We just continued to go higher through the close. But that's not surprising because honestly, what most of this movement down was some of the news that we had this morning, the jobs reports and stuff like that. And generally what they'll do is a lot of times they'll run it the wrong direction. They'll run it in the opposite direction and load up knowing they're going to take it the other way. And they ran this thing up and overloaded it and then sold it off again looking for that next leg down. But anytime you get something that bearish, there's a good chance you're going to have another leg. So you never know where it's going to start, so you got to wait for the pattern. And you got your trend line working up right here. We broke it. We made a couple legs up to a new high, then made a double top, and so that's a really good signal that you need to be thinking short. And then and if you caught this, it was all downhill from there. Easy move. And You had all these we had two pullbacks to it. Both of them were a great chance to get in. We had the break of the trend line right here, two chances to get in, and another nice move down. So let's start at our first trades this morning and work out from there. The market opened right in here somewhere, broke to this new low. We kind of already had a double bottom across here, and this is just a failed break lower. And if you were paying attention, it was a measured move from that upper level down to here. And so we were looking for a reverse possibly in here to begin with. And indeed, it bounced right there. That's a very large bar, but because of the way this is set up, you could have waited on a second entry, but it was a better entry if you entered right here. And to be honest, I just bought this. I just had my order sitting right here, and I mean, I got long within 2 ticks off of that bottom, and no, they didn't even come close to coming back and getting my runners. So, you know, I was guaranteed to make a good 5 points here. But if you held on, but because this trend line never was broken till here, I just hung on this time and was able to ride up here. And actually, I added on another set right here, and turned out to be a great trade. And I made most of my money for the day before the downtrend ever started again. But again, you had if you drew your trend line up through here, you should have had a trend line coming up through here. This was the break. You know, but you should have been looking for a reversal here, and the reason I say that is because this is where we broke through, and this was finally coming back to test, and it was a pretty strong move up. We didn't really have any pullbacks to the EMA, so and then we went into this little congestion, and usually when you break out of that, it fails, and that's exactly what happened. It broke out, failed, but again, we were looking for a possible retest of all these lows across here, and we got it, and so this was a nice little failed break higher with all these matching highs right here at the resistance area or support area that's now acting as resistance. So it was worth the effort to go short here. If you waited till in here, it was a little more iffy, but you should have gone short right below that little bar right there. And when it broke, it tried to go higher, but it couldn't. So as long as you kept your stop up above the signal bar, you were okay. And it was a nice little ride down. No real big runners unless you exit down here at these lows, which might have been a good place when it bounced. But then the prices made one more run up again, and again we went into a little congestion area, broke up, tested it, that same double top, and turned down, and that was another great place. And if you waited till here, it was probably okay because it was still plenty of room to scalp out before coming back down here. And this was the trade right here because prices just rock. You may not have even had time to enter below this bar, so if you didn't get in right in here somewhere, you might have missed this trade. This was such a tempting trade. I had to get back in the market myself again right here too, and glad I did because, man, it was a fast move back down here, and you would think we'd probably get a bounce here, and we did, but it couldn't even get back to the EMA, and that's a bearish sign. So you could have gone short right there, but I didn't mark it because I didn't take it. I didn't add on anything there, and there's a lot of overlap, and because we had this support across here, you can see it could have bounced right there, but it didn't. And so if you did take that entry, it was valid and it would have worked, and it just kind of chopped slowly back down until we got to right in here. And I talked about this a couple of days ago. We were looking for prices to bounce right here, and so I was looking to exit right in here and maybe reverse right in here, but all I did was exit, so I missed out on this whole last bit down here. I didn't add on anymore or anything. I didn't take any more trades. I just called it a day. So I wish I hadn't have exited here, but I did, and so I missed all this extra movement down through here. But this is a great example of what, actually, let me finish my last point. When we started getting support right here instead of down here, that's when people will start moving their orders. And so you should have been thinking, and that should have been a clue to me to hang with this trade, but I'd done so well and I was well over my goal, I just didn't, I didn't want to risk it. But that's a sign when you've got a strong support like this, and it actually goes back further across there. I'm not going to dig way over there, and it bounces early, and that's not a good sign for this support, because what will happen is all these smart traders will say, hey, We just came off the EMA. We tried to go back up and we came real close again. So we're probably going to break through here. So I'm going to pull my order and drop it down to the next logical place. And that's what happens. And so when you see it bounce early, definitely don't be buying this blindly. You might wait and see if you get a bounce and then enter, but when you don't and you see it went right on through and just kept on going lower, and then we got a bounce down here, but it actually overshot this lower trend channel line down through here too. So that was a signal that you know, the market was getting, instead of coming straight down like this one did at the same angle or using this, it was narrowing here. And that's a, like I said, a wedge shape is generally a reversal type pattern. But anyway, that's why you got to be careful right here if you're looking to buy this previous low, because it bounced early. You want to get out of there. But this is a good example of exactly what a breakout pullback. This is a classic breakout pullback short when prices shot right through there and then reversed again and kissed that line, which was that area, and made that little bitty doji. That was a great place to enter right there, and easy scalp. It took it a bit to get going, but if you missed that one, you could have entered again right here because there was a little trap. Let me make this bigger just to make sure you can see it. We had all this overlap, and we created a second entry short that failed, and prices tried to go higher. And as soon as it ticked up there must have been a lot of people ready to get on, because that thing shot straight back down and closed right down here on the low. So that's a trap. So if we break through here, it's probably going to go on down. And again, it took it a minute to get going, but that's what happens when you start to get congestion like that. Traders get confused, and people are not sure what's going on, and they're hesitant to enter. But it broke on down, and once it got going, it was rocketing lower again. So this was a great setup right here. I didn't take it because I'd already made all my money, but I was still watching prices at this point, and I was so tempted to enter right there, and I talked myself out of it. I said, no, it's not worth risking it. We did have, but it was the first break of the trend line too, so you got to be thinking we're going to test the low and make a new low, and that's exactly what happened, and then we trended up the rest of the day. So hopefully you can see that. Trend line break, couple of moves down to a new low. We overshot the lower part of the wedge. That's a good sign that a reversal could be coming, or at least another break of the trend line. And I was thinking we were at least coming back to here, but no, we just kept on going higher. We didn't go a whole lot higher. It was kind of a weak rally here, but the market was just overdone. It was way oversold. So, but there was another buy right here. There's a double bottom, a support area right across here, and this was a failed break lower. And that's actually two legs back, and so this was a nice long right here after making the new low, and that would have been the last one. There was actually another entry right here too. I probably should have marked, but it's getting so close to 2 o'clock, but it still falls in our time range, so I should have marked this one too. Let's just go ahead and mark it, and hopefully you can see that two-legged pullback right there to the trend line, and then it was another great move up. And this is kind of a breakout pullback. You see we had this resistance across here. We broke above it, pulled back and tested it, and then went up. So this line probably should have been down here by the time, and there it maybe makes it a little bit more visible for you. So another breakout pullback long, and then prices continued higher. And by this time we're making higher highs and higher lows, and hopefully you can see that. So you got to be thinking long until we get a trend line break. And it's a little bit flatter than I like, so it's just not a real strong trend. And what we may find out, you'll see this a lot, is the trend up really didn't start till here. And look, if you draw that line, and that's exactly so my suspicion was right that this, and that looks like a more valid trend. And this is another wedge, very similar to this wedge. So that could be telling us we're going to head lower some more. And so I would definitely change that line to look like that right there. But you can see, as long as you get close, you don't always have to have your trend lines perfect. You draw it like that, which is the way I originally had it, and this actually matches that right there. So nothing wrong with that trend line, but I believe this was the upsloping trend, to be honest, after the fact, looking at it a little closer. So, but either way you drew it, you probably came out the same way. You may not have ever got it to pull back far enough to buy, but pulling back to the EMA is often as good as pulling back to the trend line. But let me address one other thing, and excuse me, let me address one other thing here. A trader today asked me, you've probably heard me say it before, that a lot of times when a market makes a move to a new low, it'll have 3 pushes down or 3 pushes up. But that's not always the case. I mean, that's something you want to look for because that's a clue, but that's not always the case. And you could probably say there were 1, 2, 3 pushes to a new low here, and that's the first push. Then we had the reversal, second push, pull back, and it's like a 3 legs down or whatever. And then on the way up, I'd say that's 1 push, 2 push, and that's probably a 3rd push. But you see the market's still trying to go higher. So it's not something you want to bank on. It's not as important as knowing that we had the trend line here, and then we had a trend line break. That's really what you're looking for, is the trend line break when the prices are trending, and then a move to a new low. And that's your clue not to go long here, because that's the first trend line break. Now, we could have made another leg up, but if we had, I'd been thinking getting long right across here at this next support. If you measured that leg up right there, from there to there, and then went back up, that's exactly probably where you would have gone to, but we couldn't even get another leg up. Prices broke higher right there and trapped all the longs, and that's where everybody was thinking, I'm going long, I got it. And all they do is get food. You don't want to be counter trend trading on a day like this with moves like that. You want to be thinking short until we get a trend line break. And a lot of times, sometimes you'll get a double bottom, but generally what you'll get is you'll get a couple of legs down to a new low, and then you might come back and test that again and make a double bottom. But we couldn't once we broke lower right across here and got higher, we couldn't get below that again right there. And so you got a higher double bottom right here after 2 legs back. So that's a nice place to be thinking, hey, we could probably come back and test this again. And but even if you didn't take that, you definitely should have been thinking long here if it wasn't past your cutoff time, which is not quite 2 o'clock yet. It's right at the 2 o'clock hour, so you were still okay if you wanted to take that trade. But yeah, the 3 pushes are not as critical. They're just a clue to be looking for that might give you an idea. And if you look here, there's kind of 1 push, 2 push, and then 3 pushes, but they can be hard to see. They can be non-existent, but they're just a clue to be looking for. So for the trader that asked that question, hopefully that makes sense to you. The real thing you should have been looking for today is to get short on all these pullbacks right down through here. And until then, you should have been following this trend line up, thinking, hey, we might be going to have another range day. I mean, we had that big sell-off, so that's let me just back out here again. Because we had this big sell-off here early, you got to be thinking we're probably going to make another leg down, but you need more correction than that before you get your next leg, and so, or more correction than just this right in here. So you figure it's going to come back and test here or here, and that's about a 50% move, I would say. And then it made the next leg down, and it didn't quite make a full leg down compared to this one. And then it's rolling again. So we could get another leg down, and this could be 2 legs that equal to this leg. I don't know. We just have to kind of see how it plays out. But that's why you don't try to read ahead. You just follow the price action. And if we're making higher highs and higher lows like here, you got to be thinking long until you get a trend line break and a new move. And then we're making lower highs and lower lows. You got to be thinking short until you get a trend line break and a new move to a low. And that's your, the trend line. Let me just say this, and I'm going to wrap it up. The first thing you need to do each morning is try and determine the type of day. Is it a range day or is it a trend day? And the day can change as it goes, so you don't have to get married to either one. I mean, this started out as a trend day, then it looked like it might be a range day, but it ended up being a trend day, and it was mostly down. And so the first thing you need to do is look at the chart and say, what are prices doing for the most part since and here, by the time the open came, they were kind of ranging. So you couldn't be thinking down at this point. You need to be thinking we might have some kind, you need to just follow the price action. And it was up. So the trend really was up from the open till we came back and tested this area, and then it was down from there on for most of the rest of the morning, and then it was up again. So anyway, back to real quickly so I can wrap this up. Try to determine the type of day. If it's a range day, then you want to trade accordingly until it's proven different. and you want to use our range rules. And if it's a trend day, you want to trade trend rules until you get a break of the trend line and then a move to a new low, and then you can start expecting a possible reversal, and you can slow down on your on entering with the trend. So the trend was up from the start until we got the break right here. Let me back out a little more again. We got the break right here, but then, you know, what do our rules say? Oh, don't be looking for shorts yet. And you see how they made that look very, very bearish. I'm surprised they didn't tick it one tick lower and trap some more people in there. But then it was back off to the races to the high, and you had one leg up, a little correction, then a second leg up, and then it sold off from there. And when it made this double top here, you definitely should have been thinking short. And then the trend was down, all the way down until we got the first break of the trend line. And let's just say you'd drawn it like this. Okay, well, there's the trend line. There's the first break, and you still got two legs down to a new low. So you don't have to get it exactly right, as long as you're in the right vicinity. And you might have even drawn it like this, because I was looking at this too, and you kind of had a little spike and channel kind of deal here, but we broke it there, and then two legs down to a new low. So you know, as long as you're in the right vicinity. But you had to look at these first two swings here, these first two bars, and when you drew it there, it came right over that bar. And a lot of times those first two bars will give you the trend, and they're really like the first two swings almost. So if you get another swing up that turns at that same place like that, then you got to consider that's valid. And then we had the break here, and you could have even drawn it a little steeper probably, because you probably wanted to touch those two bars. And see, that looks pretty close to me. And then you had the break and the failed second entry long right there, and then quick drop, a couple legs down to a new low. There's actually three pushes down from off of here. You got 1, 2, 3, and so there's that little three kind of push. But again, you don't want to be trading on that. You want to follow the price action. And a really aggressive trader probably would have been thinking long right here on that. And there's that little one tick lower, and then it just reversed, and it was all up from there. And that's what I was talking about over here earlier, that I was surprised that we didn't get, where was it, right here, yeah. So we're 22 minutes into this. I'm going to wrap it up. Hope you're having a good trading week. Hope you had a good day today. If you didn't get some of definitely this downtrend that started around 9:45 and was just really strongly down. If you were thinking long all down through here, then you need to reevaluate what you're doing, because you were definitely off the mark here. If you saw this, that's great. You're doing the right thing. But remember, come into the market, look at what's going on. When we came in the market, it was mostly a range. It was kind of a downward bias, but it was a range. So you got to be thinking, if we break out here, we may turn back down, because that's generally what happens. You'll break out one side and fail, and you may break out both sides and fail before you eventually go back with a trend. But you know, I would say we probably had a bigger range like this in this morning, and we broke out here, tried twice, made a double top, and then boom, it's down, and it's downhill hard. So just remember that. Try to determine the type of day, trade accordingly until you're proven wrong. And if it's a range day, you're using our range rules. If it's a trend day, you're using our trend line rules. So, but I'm going to wrap it up. This is Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.